So, welcome everyone. Live a little bit earlier than we had planned because Darth doesn't have all the time to do this. So, let's get started quickly. Um, now I'm getting an echo. Why do I get an echo?
I don't know.
Now the echo's gone. Okay, so I had a screen up. I'm messing up a little bit. So just to get to know people, I think the most people on our channel will know Jackson Wheat, who's present here. A lot of them will also already know Johnny Drive-By. So let's start with the guest who initiated the talk. And that's Darth Dawkins. We agreed to address him as Darth. So, Darth, do a quick introduction of yourself so people know who we're talking to.
Yeah, my Google Plus nick is Darth Dawkins, which that's a little bit of a story, but not important. I regularly debate atheists and agnostics on Discord and on Google Plus Hangouts. And the position I take, I'm a fundamentalist Christian. I hold that the Bible is the infallible, inspired word of God. And I take the position that atheism and agnosticism are logically incoherent.
Okay. For just to make things equal, Jackson, do a quick introduction of yourself for people who might be clicking this as their first video.
Hello, everyone. I am Jackson. I make videos on biology, specifically evolutionary biology, and I know Peter, and I like Peter. He's a cool guy. And I think he likes me, and that's why I'm here.
I try to be. You're still cutting out. You're still cutting out a little bit, Jackson. But if things go bad, we'll let you know.
Okay,
Tim,
thank you. Yeah.
Tim, do a quick introduction.
I'm Tim. I have the channel Johnny Drive-By. I am an epistovist. I'm an atheist, and a musician, kind of. But I'm just pretty much care about having science be taught as science, not something like creationism. So I guess that's my biggest thing.
Okay, and we have someone else joining us.
Hello.
I'm very happy to see you. Demi's here. Demi and I recently met.
Thank you for having me on your channel again.
Yeah, we recently met on Johnny Drive-By's channel. And so cool that you could join. Do a quick introduction of yourself for people who might not know you.
Well, I'm anti-ordinary. I make like religious response videos and social commentary videos and stuff like that on my channel. But I couldn't resist joining the stream after hearing such an elegant introduction.
Okay. So yeah, let's get down to business. It's quite a bold claim that you make, Darth. So for those who don't know, the incoherence of atheism and agnosticism. I added to that, true or not. I already think it's not true, but please tell us, what exactly do you mean by this?
Okay, just for the sake of discussion, the definitions that I use for atheism and agnosticism is that atheism entails the denial of the existence of God. Agnosticism entails the lack or withholding of belief in God's existence and withholds the belief in the denial of God's existence. The reason why I selected... Sure, go ahead.
Could we just use the real definitions for things?
I'm using the standard definitions. If you go to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy online, also the Internet Encyclopedia online, the Routledge Encyclopedia of Philosophy, as well as other reference works on philosophies, the standard definition of atheism is the denial of the existence of God. A lack of belief as a definition is a minority definition, but it is not the most widespread used. The reason why I use that is because it avoids ambiguity.
Actually, to my knowledge, that is the definition, but I'm just going to go to your source right now and check.
Yeah, actually, that is the wrong definition. Atheism is just, I can sum it up in a few words. Atheism is the lack of a belief in a God, because the God claims have not met their burden of proof. That's it.
I'm just using the definitions from reference works.
Okay, but if you're talking to atheists, I think it would be better to go with the definitions they use for themselves.
What's a word for somebody who denies the existence of God then?
Well, I'm an atheist.
Well, I
don't deny the existence of God, so that would be incorrect because I am an atheist.
Yeah, I would have to object to your usage of the word deny, because deny implies that there is an active rejection of the claim, which I would have to reject.
There are people who deny the existence of God. What do you call them? Because that's how I'm using the word atheist. If that term is unacceptable
to you, something, then you accept that it exists.
Can I finish my statement?
I apologize.
Okay. Yeah. If you find that, you see, I'm using the standard definition of atheism that is found in virtually all reference works.
Which
if that is unacceptable, may I finish my statement?
Yes.
If that standard definition is unacceptable, then what single word would refer to somebody who denies the existence of God?
Well, I would just have to disagree that that's the standard definition. I can provide you with many
that's fine. We don't have to argue
with
over that
as the standard definition.
Good.
I
well, that's another discussion.
Definition for atheism being a person that lacks a belief in God or gods.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the question I have for the panel here is: do each of you deny the existence of God, or do you merely withhold affirmation due to insufficiency of justification?
Okay. Which God?
Any creator God concept.
Any creator God.
So it depends. You can't wait a minute, guys. Let me moderate here, because otherwise we'll be talking over each other. Regarding to your question, if you ask a question, do you deny a God, you'll have to define the God, because otherwise we can't give an honest answer. I can ask
when
you,
I'm using the word,
no, wait a minute. Let me finish. If I ask you, do you deny the existence of John? Do I need to define who John is, or can you give an honest answer?
God would be defined. We could define God operationally for the sake of the conversation, that God is a personal conscious mind who has the power and the ability to initiate the initial conditions of the universe. So we're talking about a creator God concept.
So where does any evidence suggesting that notion arise from in the first place?
I couldn't understand what you said.
So where does any evidence for such a being come from in the first place?
Well, I didn't offer any definition in my definition. You just asked me what the definition of God that I was going to be using. Now, I happen to hold to the existence of the Christian God and the Christian God alone. But when we use the word God instead of the Christian God, the way I'm defining it, so that we can all be on the same page, is that God would refer to a creator God concept who is an eternal, non-contingent being who is the creator of all things.
But what I'm saying is your definition of it also covers a broad spectrum and claiming a lot of abilities and even claiming the thing to be real in the first place.
No, I'm just giving you the definition and putting that on the table. Is that an acceptable definition of God?
Well,
I'm on the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. I'm looking at the page Atheism and Theism. And so it says that atheism is theism is the belief that God exists. So atheism is the belief that God does not exist. It's not the denial of God, because again, I have to object to the usage of the word denial. Denial adds a baggage to your definition.
Okay, it's real simple. We don't have to complicate this.
Hold on.
Is the statement that God does not exist, is that a true proposition?
Can we
Wait, Peter, am I cutting out again?
Yeah, you're cutting
No.
out again, and please let me
Crap.
moderate this talk, because otherwise we're just ending up talking over each other. This is not going to work. We need a good definition of God. So you already said you're holding to the biblical God. So if we're going to talk about any God here, let's address the biblical God. And
Well, when I
then
address
it-
the biblical God, I'll refer to him as the Christian God. If I'm using the word God to refer to any creator God concepts, then I'll just say God.
yeah, but we will not be discussing any creator God types which are not completely defined.
Okay, so we can. All right, fine. That's fine. So we can move on.
We'll restrict this. Wait a minute. Wait. Can I finish? We'll restrict this talk to just the God of the Bible, because that's the one that you're advocating for.
Okay, so since you withhold belief in all gods, do
Yes.
you hold forth the position that it is possible that some creator God exists? Is it possible?
It could be possible, but we don't have any evidence for that. So until
Okay, so the answer is yes.
No, the answer is not yes. The answer is a little bit more than just yes. And I wasn't finished.
Okay, so how about you, Jackson? Is it possible that
not how about you? Wait a minute. Can I moderate this? Because I wasn't finished yet. So you're not going to go to Jackson. You'll have to let me finish. Or aren't you not interested in any answers?
That's why I asked Jackson if he agreed with that.
Also, so my answer, which I hadn't finished yet, isn't interesting. I'm just asking.
Yeah, well, can we move on?
Well, so you're not interested in my answer?
We'll repeat your answer.
I wasn't finished, so I can't even repeat. I have to state it. Your question was, is it possible that a God exists? And I was answering that. And my answer was, yes, it could be possible. But as far as anyone on the planet is concerned, there still is no evidence for such a creature. And no one has come up with sufficient evidence, so we can withhold belief in this for the same reasons that we can withhold belief in leprechauns or the tooth fairy until someone comes up with some credible evidence. That's my answer. Now we can go to Jackson. Jackson, your answer.
All right, the weather for this week will be slightly cloudy. Right.
Yeah, guys, I only have about 54 minutes.
Sorry, I would have to agree with Peter in saying that is a God.
Okay, so
is that God, that specific God, possible? Yeah. Do I hold that God exists? No.
What were you saying no to?
I'm sorry. I must keep cutting out. Dang. I'm saying yes. Is it possible? Yes. Do I hold to that God? No.
Okay.
Demi,
Demi, hold on. I'm the moderator here.
Hey,
Demi.
you gotta calm down, Gonna.
Yes, but I'm the moderator here, so
yeah, I know that, but you're a little bit too hyper.
Yes.
Okay,
because
well, let's just get on to what was the question exactly?
Is it possible that a creator God exists?
Okay, yes, it's possible. It's also possible that in a parallel reality, I'm Britney Spears. Like, I don't think that possibility of something should inherently give something validity.
I didn't ask that.
Therefore, I would say that yes, it is possible, but all of the evidence does not suggest that is the case.
Okay, next up, Tim.
Well, I guess when it comes to me, the God and the Christian God, or the Judeo-Christian God, is so ill-defined that he's basically, let's put it this way, everybody's interpretation of him, to me, that I've ever heard has been different. I've never heard anybody give the same interpretation. They all have a different version of heaven, what the God is, what he really wants, different. So I don't know how you can even say that he isn't a product out of the foibles of mankind's mind. That's where I stand on it.
Okay, so is it also possible that a creator God cannot exist?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
now
I think these are silly questions. I mean, wouldn't it just be better because
they're not silly questions, because I'm trying to get to a point, and if you'd let me finish, I could get to my point.
Okay, go ahead.
They're leading questions.
Okay, so there are questions trying to get to a point. So each of you are holding that it is possible that a God exists, or it's possible that God does not exist, right?
Agreed.
So, okay, so that notion is logically incoherent. And the reason why is because that type of predication will be spoken of from within an actual world. That actual world will either be one where a creator God necessarily exists, or it will be an actual world where a creator God necessarily does not exist. Now, whichever actual world is the case, it won't make a difference, because the supposition that, quote, and the positions that you people are holding to, is that it is possible for a creator God to exist, or it's possible that a creator God does not exist. That predication, when it is stated from either actual world, contradicts the state of affairs. So in an actual world where a creator, may I finish, please?
No,
may I finish, please? Listen, if you're going to cut me off,
go on.
Then I'll leave.
Go on.
Okay. Now, if somebody says that it is possible for a creator God to exist in an actual world where a creator God necessarily does not exist, that is a contradiction. Number two, if somebody says that it is possible for a, let me just backpedal here. If somebody says that it is possible for a creator God to exist in an actual world where a creator God does not exist, that is a contradiction. On the other hand, if one said, okay, if you cut me off again, before I finish, I will leave the
conversation. You make a statement that can be addressed straight away.
You are cutting me off, and
oh my God, you're acting like a child.
If you're going to overtalk me, I will leave the conversation, or I can have one person that I will be speaking to. What's it going to be?
What's it going to be is
that's right. Wait a minute. Okay. Wait a minute. You're going to play fairly here, or I will leave the room.
Wait a minute.
If you're going to overtalk me before I get finished. You've done so multiple times. Can I finish?
Because this is still my channel, so I'm taking precedence here. So what you're doing is stating and restating and restating.
I haven't finished my point.
I know you haven't finished your point. And that's not what I'm getting at. You'll have to let others speak as well. This is my channel. I pull the rules here. If there's something that needs to be addressed while you are talking, we will address this, and we will not let you gish gallop. So that
I am not gish galloping. My patience is going very thin. I'd like to finish my point, or I'm leaving.
And my patience is going very thin as well. What you're saying is complete nonsense. Either
you did not let me finish my point. If you do not let me finish my point, I was cut off in mid-sentence. If you do not let me finish my point right now, I am leaving.
I'm addressing what
I was interrupted by the both of you. I did not finish my point.
Okay,
and I've been interrupted multiple times in this conversation.
Then finish your point.
What's it going to be?
Then finish your point and make it quick, and don't keep repeating yourself because you're already.
No, I'm not repeating myself. Listen, dudes. I am not playing this usual game of being talked over. Now, are you going to let me finish? Okay. Now I will begin again. When one asserts that it is possible for a creator God to exist in an actual world where a creator God necessarily does not exist, that supposition is a contradiction. When one asserts that it is not possible for a creator God to exist in an actual world where a creator God necessarily exists, that too is a contradiction. So the statement that it is possible that a creator God exists or it is possible that a creator God does not exist, will be spoken of within one of those two actual worlds. And in both of those worlds, whichever one is actual, that supposition is a contradiction.
Okay, so just a quick recap. Invisible unicorns can and cannot exist. Is that a contradiction?
No, because what you're talking about would be a contingent state of affairs. A creator God concept would be a different category. So invoking a contingent entity, may I finish, please? I'm answering you. Yeah. Invoking a unicorn or an invisible unicorn or a 20-pound boulder of gold on Mars would be a contingent state of affairs, not the ultimacy of reality. The concept of a creator God or existing, or that God not existing, would be the ultimacy of reality from which everything is derivative.
How would
existence?
Hold on,
you're cutting me off. I didn't finish.
I'm
if you don't let me finish, if you don't stop, I'm leaving.
I want to address.
Goodbye.
So he just repeats himself over and over, and then he gets upset that someone doesn't entertain that bullshit. I'm sorry, it's not a contradiction. I hope you watch this stream back, you fool. It's not a contradiction to not have sufficient knowledge to verify a claim. That doesn't make it possible that the Sky Daddy is going to come on us all.
What I was going to ask him is how invoking a god is different from invoking a unicorn. But
special pleading.
Yeah,
I didn't get him to give his definition of what he meant by the categories either of that. They're different categories.
Well, the whole
I have to address Caitlin. Thank the fuck Christ he's gone.
Oh yeah, it's so true.
So, slow clap.
Man, that whole so we had to listen to him for like 5 minutes, and then we didn't get to talk at all. And when we tried to talk, he would say, "You're cutting me off.
Don't interrupt me. Stop interrupting me, you rude fuckers."
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. We have someone in the chat who missed everything. Stephanie, if you want to come in and do his work for him, I'd be happy to send you a link.
No, I'm pretty sure she thinks that this argument is bogus.
You are invited to join us on this talk.
I actually liked my discussion with Stephanie, so that should be fun if she comes on.
Yeah, Darth Dawkins is still here, by the way. He's in the chat. He can come back if he wants to, and if he is compliant with the rules on our channel, which means that I am the moderator and not him, he can join. But
if he is out there, I'd like him to know that he's got to, if he's going to say something and make a claim and try and jump into some other tangent on there, he's got to we have to understand that we're both agreeing on what he's talking about before he continues.
That's the thing. I just wanted to address the one thing he said first and then move on to the next piece of bullshit he was going to say. But he wanted to cover up one piece of bullshit with another piece of bullshit, so we'll miss something stupid he said first.
Yeah, that was why I interrupted and why I told him you can't gish gallop here. If you make a statement, at least let us respond to that statement and then go on to the next one. But it seems he's not mature enough to be able to handle things like this, and he can't handle a conversation where people are trying to find out what he is saying, and if he's saying something stupid, pointing out that he's saying something stupid. So,
regardless of whether or not the being he's referring to or the existence of the universe is contingent upon that being, the possibility that he exists is not in contradiction with the reality of whether or not he exists.
Sorry, Jackson, you're really frazzling out.
Yeah.
Is that just me?
Maybe I'll try to, I don't know, maybe I'll restart my computer. I'll restart my computer and come back in. How about that?
Hopefully.
Yeah, because on your talk you were fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you guys shortly.
Was I a bit Was I a bitch for pointing out the audio problems, or
No.
okay?
You are never a bitch. You may
Oh no,
be,
I take pride that I'm a bitch, but I'm just
well, at least not to us. You might get animated at times, but so do I. So we're
oh yeah, but I like you all. I'm not a bitch to people I like.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
just the nice guy that always finishes last.
yeah. Tim is usually the more quiet guy. I have to admit, but he's also one of the nicest people that I've ever met on Twitter and on YouTube. So there is that. Yeah, I just can't get over the silly statement that he made, the incoherence of atheism. I mean, if there's something that doesn't meet its burden of proof, you don't accept it, and you don't believe it, and that's pretty much it. And there's no incoherence in that, and I still don't get why people are peddling this silly statement.
I don't understand it either, because it's like you're calling how I have a certain lens and I look at the world in a certain way because of who I am, and you're calling a lack of belief as like somehow irrational, but you believing in a sky daddy that made the universe in 5 days is somehow logical.
Yes, and without any good evidence for it.
Well, the Bible, don't you count the Bible? Come on.
No, because if we want to use the Bible as evidence, we'll have to go through certain steps. And the first one would be, is there a God? If the answer to that is yes, then we need to define this God. And when we have defined it, then we can go look, did he leave some kind of message? And if so, where can we find this message? And that has to be verified. And if that is verified, then we can go and use the Bible, but only then. Until then, the Bible is just a claim, nothing more.
I'm waiting for somebody to back it up, whatever they say about the Bible. That's all I have to say about that, I guess.
And it's like, how you believe the Bible's true, but the Bible's like a regional clone of fucking the Torah. It's just got a bit of added characters and a few new stories. But it's like, how can you say the Bible's true and then like to scoff at all other religions when they're essentially claiming the same stuff as you with just as much proof as yourself?
Yeah.
I hear typing.
Yeah, I'm.
By the way, Christian,
I'm responding because our dear friend Darth is still making comments that we didn't treat him well, and he was talked over.
Yeah, but he
our conduct was terrible. Well, he talked over pretty much every one of us, which was okay.
Like a 5-year-old child. Like, you're supposed to come in to have a discussion with adults, and you're acting like a 5-year-old.
Yeah, and I'll extend. He can still come back in, but he has to adhere to the rules that we have here. And if that's not working, then he can stay away. I don't care. Because
I don't think I talked over anybody, did I?
Yeah. I'm running the channel, so I make the rules. And if that's too hard on him, tough. I don't have a problem with that. But he's not going to talk over us and then be fine with that. And when someone asks him a question, that's not allowed. That's not going to work on this channel. Not ever. So that was my little rant.
And the problem is, like, there are so many, it's hard to find them, I know, but there are so many well-versed religious people that can have a average discussion in which it's not heavily structured and you can just jump in and interject. And like, very rarely do I ever find myself in streams with people that have the ability to do that. Because if I make a claim and you interrupt me in the middle of that claim, I'm not going to care if you have something related to what I just said. That's the kind of how discussions happen.
Yeah. There's rules in rhetoric and discourse, as far as I know.
Welcome back, Jackson.
It's great to be back.
Hey there, I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah,
We'll
you
see how
sound
long
fine.
it lasts. We'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah.
Maybe that was God cutting out my sound.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, at least you handled it a little bit better than Darth, because he's still whining in the chat. They cut me off. They cut me off. They cut me off.
Oh, did it?
I haven't met anyone this immature since my talk with Dean Esme. He wasn't a fan of Dean Esme, but they share a lot, I think.
You know,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. You know, I think it'd be interesting because Darth said he's a young Earth creationist. I think it might be interesting because I make videos about, for any of you who didn't know, because I know we none of you know who I am. So I make videos about evolution. So I think it'd be interesting to talk to him about that, maybe.
And you make the best.
Maybe I ruined it with being a loudmouth and interrupting him.
He's now now we're mocking Darth for pointing out our misconduct. We're mocking him now. Sorry, Darth.
So sorry.
Can we send you a virtual hug from this this stream, because I'm so sorry. I hope you'll be able to sleep this night. I mean, really. I
hope you don't need weeks of therapy to get over this traumatic experience. You'll be okay, honey bun.
Yeah, just a little bit of projection that I sensed there. So
yeah, I'm sure the God that he was even unable to define himself will help him in some way, I guess, because he's a part of his imagination show. He should be able to work things out with his God.
Well, he's loyal. Surely, being loyal, God wouldn't let him come into such an adverse conversation.
Yeah. I wonder what these God's plans with him are. If he's exposing him to extremely mean people like us.
We're just so disgusting. I don't know.
Obviously, I am quite mean.
I feel bad for him, really.
He says there's nothing to get over. He requested multiple times that we wouldn't cut him off and over talking, and now we're denying. No, Darth, we're not denying, because I did cut you off, and I will cut you off if you talk bullshit and keep talking bullshit without letting us respond.
I'm sure the stream will be up there for him to see later.
Yeah, that's how conversation works in the real world, and not in the world that you might be pretending to have, where a God can or cannot exist, or whatever bullshit you were trying to get us to agree on. I'm still not clear how this silly comment would work, and you didn't let us ask what you meant by it. You just went on ranting with different things, and that's not how it works. If there's something that I don't understand, I want you to clarify it without going on a tangent.
This is just my opinion, but I think he was trying to control the conversation, and because we were trying to extract information from parts that he'd mentioned, he got upset because that could direct the conversation in a different way.
Yeah, he was already trying this, because in the middle of my answer, he went to Jackson, let's hear from you.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works. If I'm still talking, then you'll have to let me talk as well. And if you can interrupt, and I'm not leaving, and I'm not leaving because you did that, I'm just pointing it out.
I just loved Jen with one end's reply was, "Screw you guys, I'm going home." Cartman from South Park. That's
I'm going home.
"Screw you guys, I'm going home."
Yeah, home. Right over here.
Yeah, well, he started to control everything before the stream because he wanted me to start the stream while Jackson was still alive, and I told him that's not going to happen. Then he told me that he wanted to go live immediately when Jackson stopped. I told him that was not going to happen because people who tune in later might still be listening, and I'm not stealing viewers from a friend's channel just to have my own chat. So that's not going to happen. And if he can't adhere to basic decency, then yeah, maybe he's doing something wrong.
I always find like I personally find it is kind of telling of how confident you are in your position is how open you are to discussing it with people that are opposing that position.
Correct.
Well, I think the Bible itself does have that hierarchy thing in there where it's like you're not supposed to question it. So I guess that's sort of what the mood I got from him. I guess that's what I felt like he was trying to do.
Yeah,
could be wrong, but
well,
I don't know. I think he would probably let us respond to it, but not in a timely manner.
yeah,
no.
Like if he's gonna give a full-on presentation, then I at least need to have the foresight to have notes up so I can actually address the bullshit.
Yeah, and he could have made for a decent conversation because I was truly interested in what he had to say, because it's a claim that I've come across several times now, and no one seems to be able to back up that claim in a sufficient way. So I was really looking forward to maybe at least get to someone who can actually have a conversation. So I'm a little bit disappointed that he left.
Oh yeah,
But,
yeah.
I'm really interested on why you think religious people are like that.
Why I'm interested?
Yeah, why do you think that religious people find it hard to give something that proves a God when they so vehemently believe it? I think the reason they do is because when they were young, they were just told, oh, because it's in the Bible. And when there is people that don't subscribe to what is in the Bible, then you can't use the Bible as an authority, and therefore your arguments don't hold very much when under scrutiny. What do you think?
Yes, I think that's a crucial point, because and I've revised my a very long time ago, I went into a fight with Hammond Mehta, who said, well, you have to give people who become atheists, who former believers who become atheists, more credit than someone who has been an atheist all his life, and I went against that. I now have revised that because he was correct in this. It takes a lot more to come from a position where you were a believer, where you were brought up in this, and then going to atheism, because there are a lot of things that have been instilled in you in a way that it's very difficult to deal with. So yeah, I did revise my position on this, and that's why I think it's interesting, because I'm interested in what keeps people in their belief other than that.
exactly.
And maybe try and find a way that to have them question what they believe. And I think the epistemology way is the best way to do it. I have a huge admiration for Anthony Magnabosco, the way he's conducting it.
Well, Caitlin Cloyd
Yeah.
said it right there, screaming persecution complexes. That's kind of it.
Yeah, that also steps in, but the persecution complex is fed by the churches,
Yes, yes.
and they have a legitimate
The war
uh,
on Christmas.
yeah, they have but they have a legitimate goal, because if Christians keep leaving the church, the amount of tithing is going to go down, and they're going to be in serious trouble. And
Once
that's
you get it back a hundredfold.
and just recently, I got a tweet from someone that might be the reason why they are against abortion, why they are against safe sex, and sex before marriage and sex out of pleasure, because that would not result in babies, and babies will grow up and be tithers. So yeah, there are a lot of things that come into play when you look at the broader picture.
I think that's true. I think I oversimplified my answer, but what do you think, Jackson?
Oh, with regard to
With regards to why it seems to be quite difficult for a religious person to prove God when they can't use Bible as an authority.
well, from my perspective, I would say that a lot of them do try to use a variety of arguments and not just the Bible when trying to prove God. Like the moral, Stephanie likes the moral argument. There's the transcendental argument. There's the 5 ways that Aquinas had. And I mean there are these arguments, but they kind of get you more to deism, and then you have to use the Bible if you want to get from deism to Christian theism. I think it was Hitchens who said, if you get to deism, you have all your work ahead of you.
That's what I thought he was trying to get to when I was listening to him talk, that he was trying to get to deist kind of a perspective.
Yeah.
Or whatever. That's what I felt like he was trying to do.
But no, he was talking about a very specific God.
Yeah, but it seemed like he was I don't know, balancing on that little line or whatever, kind of trying to, well, this is that or whatever, So
Right.
I don't know. I understand he was trying to put it on the Christian thing, but that's why he even said there, well, what do you? He's trying to get us to say what we think or whatever, rather than what he believed.
I've never I haven't. I'm not going to sit here and say that I've listened to all of their arguments by well-versed people in those arguments. But for example, we'll use the moral argument. Is that the argument that morals exist, therefore God exists, essentially?
Well, objective morals exist.
So like murder, we would consider murder an objective moral, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, murder is objectively wrong, across society. So,
but nature would say no, murder isn't wrong. And
well, it depends on the definition of murder. Murder has kind of baggage associated with it.
You could even make an argument for that. There's some cases where that would be a good thing. Like, should we get rid of this bad person back in history? Would that have been a good thing to take him out or whatever? That. So it's truly objective. That's
So my point is that most of these things can be like the moral argument. I'm not going to say I can argue all of the arguments, but the moral argument to me seems to be settled by the fact that religious texts hold so much influence over people, and that societies themselves hold the morals. When we look at different countries from the ones that we currently reside in, we can see, depending on how different the country is, a drastic change in morality. So morality isn't exactly objective. It's not exactly there for all people. And even amongst the general public, it changes amongst populations. So wouldn't that indicate societal norms rather than objective, fundamental righteousness?
Well, coming at this from, I'm not as I said before, I'm not a philosophically inclined person. So coming at this, well, I was saying, what I would say, coming at it from an evolutionary perspective, is I would have to agree that there's a set of what we call moral values that that promote healthy living in society and increase the number of offspring that we have, etc. Not all of them, though. I mean, a lot of moral values that we have arise more as a result of cultural evolution, which is due in part to our increased cerebralization. So, but yeah, I would take issue ascribing any morals that we have, even if they are cross-cultural. Just, some idea that is completely agreed upon by all people all over the world. I would, even if we do have ideas like that, I would still have a hard time saying that there's a reason for that other than common ancestry amongst these people.
And couldn't you argue that, like, a lot of it can be driven by humans being social creatures and having strong empathetic reactions to situations?
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, of course, we're all going to say murder is not acceptable because none of us want to be murdered. So it's like empathy.
Right.
Yes, but that's not a black and white situation. No. Because murder is premeditated. So let's have the scenario that someone is trying to rape you, Demi, and I'm seeing this maybe on social media. I get into my car, I get into where you are, so I have the time to think what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is, if necessary, I will kill the person who's raping you.
Okay.
Now, and that to me is acceptable. Because
okay, I accept that, and I would also second that is justified. But in my statement, I didn't say there wasn't exceptions to the rules, and because morality isn't objective, therefore my position would agree with you doing that thing, because morals aren't objective, and in some cases, murdering would, or however you want to defining taking another person's life, is acceptable, and in most cases it's not acceptable. So yes, that situation would it be acceptable for you to do that, but that doesn't stand against objective morality more than for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would think so.
So and when it comes to God, I think the Bible is a clear statement that murder is perfectly okay, because in the Old Testament God orders murder several times. He orders genocide, he orders the taking of child sex slaves. So
there's a couple examples.
To play devil's advocate, they would say it's justified because God did it.
Yes, it is. So that's special pleading, and I don't think that a moral God, even if he is the creator, he still doesn't have the right to wipe us out.
Well, no, that comes. Let me play devil's advocate for a second. I don't think so. I'm not coming from a Christian perspective. I'm coming just kind of deist, I guess. There's not necessarily any obligation for the God to be benevolent or all good. He could be a fucking sludge of bad and good, and that explains why there's bad and good things, because in Hindu there are bad and good gods, and bad gods create bad things and good gods create good things.
Well, the deist argument loses right away for me, because it's like, well, if he just created it and left it here for anything, then what does he want? Nobody can prove what he wants anyway, so he's irrelevant really in this universe, so it doesn't matter. I mean,
if God is real and he's created the universe, why would he do it with such precision? That's what I don't understand. Why would he make the universe so finely tuned that we would never be able to detect that anyone had to make it? Because from our observations, things seem to have been able to do them on their own. If he really wanted us to believe in, or she, or it, or whatever the fuck it is, if it wanted us to believe in it, wouldn't it give us some objective truth to knowing? Wouldn't it just pop up in the sky like, yo, humans, I like you, you're my buddies, you can do shit, and then just pop away and we all know?
We're
Oh,
all
well,
I
right.
don't understand if he's all powerful, why it's so hard for him to say hello.
Hey guys, we have a question from the audience. It says, if you were
Okay, go
the
ahead.
leader of your country, what would you do with religion?
I would leave it as it is because I don't want to impeach on people's freedoms. Like, we all have a right to believe in what we believe, but I would probably make it like more prominent that we are allowed to challenge those beliefs, because too often, whether it's Islam or Christianity or some other religion, you're considered some kind of antagonistic, nasty person for challenging someone's beliefs. Although I don't feel like that should be the case, because if something is true, no matter how much challenges are brought to that thing, it will remain true. So that would be the only thing I'd change about my country, is that discussion around religion is not kind of coveted because it's special.
And I would add the same, but there is a little thing that I would add, because we protect children from drugs and from alcohol. We also protect children from child abuse. So if a certain religion was to propagate hell and was to instill children with the fear of hell, I consider that
Very good point.
child abuse. So religions would be free to do whatever they want at the age of consent and no earlier. And what I would do is I would make it sure that we have the best education possible, and I would make it that in that education, children are taught to think critically and are taught to ask questions.
I would like to add
and
that
demand
to my,
answers.
I would like to add that to my one.
I knew you would, and I think most in here would do the same. But what I wouldn't do, I wouldn't put a ban on religion unless a religion would pop up that that would threaten society. So if something like ISIS would pop up, yes, I would make that illegal.
I'll just say this: if there is a real God, may He strike everybody that's listening to this here stream right now down with lightning. And if you're still here right now, there's evidence that He's not real.
Oh,
There's more evidence that he's not real from that than that he is real.
Sorry, I had to get sarcastic.
Can we do it the way that Robert Reed did it on Stephanie's channel? Just let him ring the doorbell and say hi. That striking me with lightning isn't particularly necessary.
Well, I already knew.
I'll believe him when he shows up.
Well, see, that's kind of the thing. It's how would we discern the actual existence of God from a hallucination?
I don't think you can.
Well, see, that was something. There was a talk between Richard Dawkins and Matt Dillahunty, and that was one of the things they talk about. Is what would make you believe in God? And I think that was something Stephanie and I also talked about. And it is an interesting question. I don't know what I would expect, and I also don't know.
I don't think there is anything that could convince me, in my own opinion. But if what they say about this God, that he knows, and whatever he knows everything, he would know what it would take to convince me.
Right.
And if he knows that, then he's just leaving me sit here not convinced. And I think the onus is on him, if you ask me. And maybe Christians would think that's, oh, you're being selfish. Well, no, I'm not. I'm just sitting here. If he wants to convince me, he knows what that would be. It's that simple for him.
Yes, and it's also states in the Bible that the God of the Bible is a loving God. He wants you to have a relationship with him. So why would he play hide and seek, and why would it be necessary for anyone to seek him out? If that's what he wants, then he should at least make it so that we're able to find him and to find out what exactly he wants from us, and that we can meet him. But there's also a question in or a remark in the chat from Phino 3000. He said it wouldn't work because religion usually is something coming from inside the family, or at least the foundation for it is laid there, even if later the flavor of religion is changed by the person. And I would agree with that. The statement that I made was about child abuse, and we still have people abusing their children, and we take children away from them if they are abusing them. So I would use that method if children would be instilled with the fear of hell, because I considered that child abuse, and I can back that up because I have several followers on Twitter who came from religion and are now adults in their 40s and sometimes even 50s, and still struggling with the concept of hell, which was instilled within them when they were children. It is that difficult for people. It is that hard to step away from. So yes, I would enforce a law that would restrict people from instilling children with that concept, because it is child abuse, and it is child abuse that will last over a lifetime.
Into the next lifetime, because they'll probably carry it on to their kids.
Yes.
I had something I wanted to say earlier, but I completely forgotten what it was now.
Why did I?
Yeah, there was something we were talking. What was the last conversation we were having before this? We were talking about
Something you
We
said
were-
gonna go for it.
What we're talking about before I got back to this point was Tim stating that God wants to know us, and somehow
that's right.
somehow
Okay.
it's still hot.
Right. So, so the thing is, again, to play devil's advocate, they, from what I've met of at least the more fundamentalist people down here in the South, is they just, if you say, you know, God has yet to show himself to me, they would say, oh, well, Romans 1:18, God has already revealed himself to you, but you just, deny his existence. And I think that is an accurate place to put it is better to put deny there, I think, than to put deny in the definition of
What I don't understand is
atheism.
how do so many religious people claim God to be good given everything that is bad?
Let's put it this way. One thing that's true about that God is he can't be all three of the omnis, all three of them. It's illogical for that to be the case for all three of those. He can't be omnipotent and know everything, or be all powerful. Because
they say he's not omniscient. He is maximally knowing. He's not omnipotent. He is maximally powerful. Or at least that's what Craig says. They try to kind of.
So why do those? I might just be really stupid, but why is the where you were first saying it not possible? Obviously, I don't believe God is possible, but in the assumption that it is.
Go ahead.
Okay. So God, you ever heard the paradox? Can God create a rock so heavy he can't lift it?
No. Do you want to explain it?
Okay. So it was not invented by atheists. It was invented by Christians, by monks or Christian scholars, long time ago. They came up with this idea that if God is omnipotent, is there anything he can't do? Because omnipotent means you're all powerful. So could God do it? Could God create a rock that he himself couldn't lift? Because if he can create a rock he couldn't lift it, therefore he's not omnipotent. And if he can't create a rock he couldn't lift, then he's still not omnipotent. So people like Craig will say, like William Lane Craig will say, well, he's not totally omnipotent. He is only maximally omnipotent.
Yeah, but isn't that just the same thing? I really understand what you mean by it now as well.
Do what?
Isn't that the same thing, being maximally?
Oh no, they would say. Well, basically, they try to cut out the paradox. They try to keep him as super powerful, but cut out the paradox.
By just changing God's definition casually.
I mean, it's like what is it? The definition of perfection? I've talked with like some philosophy students, and they say, like perfection is the maximum, like maximally achieved, or something like that. So, if you are maximally powerful, then you are still super powerful, but not so powerful that like you create paradoxes and logic yourself out of existence. And so,
oh, that's just nice and convenient.
I mean, that's at least that's what they told me. And so,
kind of put an oil slick in front of the goalpost there, didn't they?
Yeah, but if you go by mere logic, the biblical God cannot exist, because if he's omniscient, it means he knows the final outcome of everything. If he's omnipotent, that means he has the power to change everything. But if he knows all final outcomes, he's powerless to change events, even his own.
Right.
Which no, wait a minute.
Okay,
Which negates.
maybe.
No, wait a minute.
Okay,
Which negates his omnipotence. Or if he can use his omnipotence to change final outcomes, those weren't the final outcomes, which negates his omniscience.
Okay,
So-
but his omniscience might be correct. Okay, by the way, I hate the fact that I'm sitting here arguing about the possibility of the superpowers of a god.
No.
I think these are important hypotheticals.
Okay,
Yes.
but what I'm saying is that let's imagine the god being at a current time, then if the god performs no action, then the end that the god sees is still the end. But then when he performs an action to change the future, then that would be the next end until he decided to change it then.
Well, but see, the point is that he didn't know originally that he would change it.
Oh yeah,
he was unaware up to that point.
Maybe I'm just too stupid for this.
No. I don't think you're stupid.
No, that makes sense though, because like, how did he know? How didn't he know he was going to change it, and why wouldn't he just do that initially then?
Yeah, well, logic rules this out. You can't be omnipotent and omniscient at the same time, because it just cannot work. Both things rule each other out.
Well, that's why they say maximally powerful.
I like the way we're using like such a technical part to like disprove God, even though like God itself is just an illogical concept.
Well,
Yes.
see, I would say I'm sorry, Johnny. I talk way more than you. Go ahead.
I just got one thing here. Saying, somebody in the comments say something about repenting. What is repenting exactly? What is the actual definition of repenting?
No one knows.
I don't know the actual definition, but I'm guessing it's like where you feel super guilty about anything you do and tell
I'll
God
look it
you're a bad person.
I've been so very naughty, God.
What I found out that Tim, that repenting is if you can not go back and do the same mistake again. If you fail to do that, you have failed repenting, because that's pretty much how Christians seem to define it. I never had a clear answer on that as well.
I pulled up a dictionary so we can look at it if you guys want.
But there's so many different. Just kidding.
there's another comment I want to touch on. Stephanie just made a comment, and she said putting our Creator on the same level as people on a third rock from the sun is silly at best. And I would actually fully agree with that, because
definitely.
I wouldn't.
So okay, but why?
No, wait a minute. I wouldn't put Donald Duck on the same spot, because I wouldn't put Donald Duck on the same level as human beings, because we know he was created by Walt Disney, and that's pretty much the same for the biblical God.
So my follow up to what Stephanie said is, then doesn't that go against your religion? Because we couldn't possibly understand God, so none of the religions can be true if we couldn't possibly understand them.
Well, you know, he reveals himself through revelation.
Scripture. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's how they got that one.
We'll see, but I would
Yeah,
argue it seems. Oh,
in
sorry.
Stephanie's case, he does it audibly as well, which I still doubt, and would need to have some better evidence. Stephanie's now asking Donald Duck. Yes, Stephanie, Donald Duck. Both are characters in a book.
You know, I would say it almost seems like in the Bible that.
By the way, Stephanie, I'm a lot less
sorry.
aggressive about this stuff than him. Just to let you know.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jackson.
And Stephanie
no,
still has an open invite. She said she has people over, yet she has been in the chat constantly. So if she's not entertaining these people and listening to our live stream instead, because she's responding to pretty much everything that we say, why not join? I mean, you have an open invite. I'll send you a link in DM if you like. You're free to join.
I'm a really nice guy, Stephanie.
They're all nice people in here. I can vouch for.
Oh, she said
pretty much every. Sorry?
She said the guest left. The guests left.
The guests left.
Yes.
Did I miss that?
I mean, she just put it in there in the live chat. Also, it seems like the Bible would argue that God is not all-knowing. I mean, he did have to send 2 angels into Sodom and Gomorrah, didn't he?
Yeah.
To check out the situation.
Just quickly go check this out for me. My Sky Daddy book isn't working.
And
I mean,
he was wrong about his perfect creation. So he had to flood the whole world and redo it or whatever. So.
By the way, Stephanie, when I say stuff in the way I was saying it after that Christian left earlier, that isn't me trying to just dig at religious people. I wouldn't talk like that in a discussion with you.
I'm just letting her know, Stephanie, you can come in and then leave when your guests are coming back. I don't have a problem with that. It's something that we would need to know up front, and you told us up front. So if you want to join in just for a couple of minutes, I wouldn't have a problem with that. So I'll send Stephanie the link just in case she wants to join, because she's free to join. And I told everybody already that my mentions are flooding, which has to do with the rumors are that I am after Stephanie and I want to hurt Stephanie. Well, let's make it quite clear that that's not the fact. And she's free to come join us here. I
actually just want to have a civil discussion with you about this topic, and I really would like for you to come and join me on my channel and discuss this topic.
Ooh, famous last words. I would like to have a civil discussion. Yeah.
Well, I've sent Stephanie the link in DM on Twitter, so if she wants to join, she's free to join.
And I had Stephanie's back last time. I had her back last time. Someone was straw manning you. I was like, no, bitch.
She says I'll gladly join you, Demi.
Oh, well, thank you. We'll DM and sort something out. Unless you want to join us on this stream, and that would be really fun.
Yeah. She can come in. She has the link to join, so she's free to join. No problem.
In the meantime, let me distract you with my juggling.
Oh, Jackson. Did you want to say something? Because I had a scientific question I would like to ask you.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not sure if this is actually anywhere related to your field of study, but I would like, you're still probably more educated to just have a guess at it than myself.
I mean, maybe.
Did
I don't
you
know.
see? Sorry.
I said maybe. I don't know.
So, did you see the recent study that came out showing a brain's worm inside a robot?
Yes, I did.
A
Showing a
worm's
what?
brain inside a robot.
A worm's brain inside a robot.
Well,
Yeah.
not exactly a worm's brain, but they figured everything out on I can't remember what kind of worm it was on Seeker, the Seeker channel or whatever that, or something like that. But
So they basically have the neural pathways of a worm down. It was like the first thing we had done.
how it senses the wall or whatever and can do whatever. The robot will do its own directions with it. So it's
Weird.
So somehow they built a Lego robot and they attached sensors that would mimic the worm's real organ sensors. And now the worm just lives its eternal life as a Lego robot. Probably doesn't even know.
That's harrowing, but all right.
It's like Black Mirror has come to life.
Oh my gosh, that is
something else too. It was on New Science where they're linking an ancient virus that is actually connected to the roots of where our conscious part of our brain actually comes from. That's I can't remember. It was New Science. I saw that on.
People really need to provide me with citations about consciousness, because for the longest time I was kind of certain science had no real conclusive answer. But recently I've heard quite a few people assert there is a conclusive answer. And if that is the case, I would like to know.
well, I think there are some answers, but there's a lot still left to be discovered.
Yeah, there's a lot we don't know, that's for sure.
Yeah, consciousness is kind of a weird thing. I mean,
Really,
how do you really define consciousness?
Yeah.
Just defining it itself is one of its challenges.
And even what I'm thinking of my memories, that's not really consciousness. It's consciousness is like the exact present. The second I think about it now, it's already in the past. So it's really not my conscience anymore after. Yeah.
I don't know. It is, neurobiology is definitely not my area. I'm afraid I don't know much of anything about it.
I'll send you links after the stream. It's really interesting. There's
Okay,
a really short video. I don't know if you watch Seeker, but they have a short video on it on there.
Okay, I'll watch it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was interesting in that robot. I was like, wow.
But also, Stephanie's here now.
Oh, hello, Stephanie.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Stephanie.
How are you?
We're
I'm
fine.
good. How are you?
I'm doing
Stephanie-
well. I have a couple minutes. I don't have too long because my sister and my neighbor they were here and then they left and went across the street, and now I'm waiting for them to come back.
Okay, just one quick thing, Stephanie, and I want to clear this up because my mentions are flooding over this. I am not after you. I'm not behind anything that would cause you harm in any way, and I hope we can make this clear.
That's excellent. So that you don't have that journalist in Tampa who's working to write an article and try to.
I don't have that journalist. I know that a journalist is working on an article, and I warned you about this. Correct or not?
Well, I was thinking about this journalist, and I was thinking that it wouldn't be very interesting news to write about me. I'm not terribly newsworthy, so I can't imagine I would waste their time writing about me.
I couldn't say. What I will say is that go look in the media, because this journalist removed someone from your university last year.
Oh, well, the journalist didn't remove someone from the university. The university removed someone from the university.
Okay.
The journalist merely shared the tweet that the person said actually went viral, and that was part of the problem.
Yeah. Okay. So now at least you know, it's not me. I'm not out to cause you any harm, and I've told you so last night several times, I think. I do think some things went wrong, but that's another discussion. Let's move on from here.
Stephanie, could I ask you a question?
Sure.
because I was shown a tweet from you, and can I read the tweet to you?
Sure.
This is a quote, a direct quote. I do know autism correlates with atheism, which is concerning given many people diagnosed with same.
Yeah, I think I said that last summer. I found a couple of studies that indicated there's a correlation between the two. So I actually haven't posted anything on that since last summer, and I'd really rather not talk about that because people are going to get offended, and I really don't want to offend anybody.
Well, no, I was just wondering what your opinion on that correlation was.
My opinion on it? I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on the correlation. I just sort of cited there is a correlation.
Well, that's a good stance to have.
Yeah, no, I don't think, I mean, the thing is the reason I'm here and why I keep jumping into these chats is because I truly love you people. I love you, okay? I love atheists. I want you to, I think it would be really great if you were able to meet Jesus. That's all. Well, I know you find that amusing. You guys all think that's funny, but that's why I do.
You'll be delighted to know I have already met a guy named Jesus.
I've met some Jesuses myself.
let me make a short statement on that, Stephanie. What I think is I like people like you a little bit more than this Darth guy who didn't let us ask questions. You're perfectly fine with having a decent conversation. So I think we need more people like you joining atheist live streams and vice versa. So I'm all for that.
So do I. I would like to add, because I think that having people that can have a a slightly civil discussion about these topics really opens the discussion up more. And I personally find it partially endearing that you care enough to want me to be saved, although I don't believe that I need to be saved from anything. I understand where that comes from.
I also have to point out, I actually got to run. Thanks for having me on, Peter.
Okay, you're welcome,
and thanks
Jackson.
for coming on earlier today, Stephanie. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. It was nice to be on your show.
All right. Yep.
Okay.
See you guys later.
Bye, Jackson.
Nice talking to you again, Jackson. Okay.
So, Stephanie, since we still have a topic, the incoherence of atheism and agnosticism, what's your stance on that?
The incoherence. Well, I think that isn't that Darth's topic?
Yes, that was Darth's topic, but I'd like to hear what you think about it.
The thing is I think what you and actually Demi and Peter, is it Peter Drive-By, or what was the name? Drive-By?
Tim, that's Tim or John. Tim or Johnny. He'll answer.
Or Johnny or Tim. Yeah. Okay, so I think that you feel your positions are very coherent, and I think that your position actually, what you all have in common is the fact that you basically reject beliefs because you feel like there's no evidence. So that itself can be coherent. The fact that you have made a choice based on what you feel is no evidence. So no, I'm not going to sit and make an argument on the incoherence of atheism. I think that you've made a choice that you find is rational.
What I would kind of disagree with that is it's like, doesn't evidence stand for itself? Would you agree?
Yes. Here's what it is, Demi. Demi, I'm sorry. Do you spell it D-E-M-I?
Yeah.
Okay, so like Demi Moore. I like that name, actually. It's a cool name. It's definitely a cool name. No, the evidence. See, the thing is I think that it's when you say there's a lack of evidence, and many people have said that, and I see in the chat we've got people like Jen with one N who said she spent 30 years looking for evidence and felt like she was never presented it. I think that I mean took me 25 years of praying and praying and praying and constantly asking. And there was many, many years and many days passed by where I wasn't receiving any sort of a hint at all. And then probably about 5 or 6 years ago, suddenly everything seemed to change. And so I started getting answers, and I started seeing signs, and things started happening. And it was, but I just to say that I'm not exactly in your shoes, and I'm not in Peter's shoes, and I'm not in Johnny's shoes, because I always have felt like there was a presence. There was always God in my life. I just didn't know what the form of God was.
Well, I'm probably more, I don't know everyone else's religious backgrounds, but I've had a few in my short life. Compliment myself. So what I would say is that those are all probably correct. Those are all subjective experiences and feelings, but that isn't necessarily evidence, do you think?
Well, if I explained all of the experiences, I do think you would think that they were evidence. They provided me with evidence, and actually, just to show you externally, I've made complete life changes based on those experiences. So it's not that.
Yeah, but we all like. I'll give you an anecdotal example. I took drugs once, and after I took that drug, I had a down, and it stopped me from smoking or anything like that. And I had a profound experience that changed my life, but I couldn't now use that subjective experience to tell everyone to take drugs, because for one time it worked positively for me.
Yeah, so no, I've had experiences too that had, I mean, there are some experiences we all have in our lives that don't necessarily have to do with God. For example, I gave up cigarette smoking when I smoked cigarettes when I was in college, and right after college, I did a cold turkey years ago, decades ago, because I decided it was, I didn't want to, quote, let the cancer sticks control me. And so that wasn't something that was a religious experience at all. I just made the choice to give them up.
Mine was quite a profound emotional experience because I was coming down from a substance. So people consider profoundly emotional experiences religious, correct?
Shannon?
Oh, sure. Yes, some do.
We have a new guest. I invited Shannon Q in on this as well.
I know. I saw. Welcome, Shannon.
Hi, Auntie.
I'm so lucky I get to be in a live stream with Shannon now too.
Oh yeah, you're super lucky.
It's my first too, so welcome, Shannon, and I'm glad you came and joined us.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. What are you guys discussing? I feel like I'm behind the times. What's the conversation about?
I think we're trying to find out what our differences are on our definitions of evidence, and what our definition of evidence is. I think that's kind of where we're at right now.
Oh, okay.
So, Stephanie, correct me if I'm incorrect, but I believe Stephanie is saying that her cumulative experiences over her lifetime that have led her to experiencing God, she considers as evidence for God. And I personally use the example of having a intense emotional experience and that changing my life, and I couldn't extrapolate and use that as advice for the general public.
So experience is being equated as evidence?
Essentially. I'm not sure if I'm incorrect in saying that, Stephanie.
So anything that compels you is evidence by that definition. Anything that compels you to a certain way of thought can essentially be considered evidence if it was capable of compelling you.
Yes, I would agree, and I would add to that that's evidence for you, but it can never be evidence for someone else.
That's why I highlighted it was definitely subjective experiences and feelings, and those are all perfectly valid. What I disagree with is that can be considered evidence.
Well, let me put it this way. I know that my experiences obviously are not going to convince anybody else to become a Christian. It's definitely not going to happen by listening to my experiences. So I actually, when I first got on Twitter, I wasn't aware of that. And I actually thought, oh, well, when I share my experiences, certainly everyone's going to find that maybe see a light or something like that. And it didn't happen for me. So then I started writing a lot of articles with better evidence that's apologetics. And it's so I have a lot of articles on that kind of stuff because I know that my personal experiences will not convince anyone. I've learned that. So I wish they would. It would be wonderful if they did, but they don't. They don't convince you. So
yeah, just like my personal experience wouldn't convince you out of Christianity, you know, by the same token. I mean, I've never been compelled to believe in a God. Full disclosure, Stephanie, you and I have never met. We conversed for 2 seconds on Twitter this morning, but we've never interacted. So it's nice to meet you. I'm Shannon.
Oh, hi, Shannon. I saw you. Actually, you were in Jackson's chat room, right?
I was. Yeah, I love Jackson. Oh, bless us. He's the best.
He is great. I really like Jackson too. No, it's nice to meet you, Shannon. What's your Twitter handle?
It's Shannon_Q0.
Okay, so I have to look back at my tweets. I tweeted kind of a lot today, so
fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm way too addicted to Twitter. It's really pathetic. Actually, I'm super embarrassed about that.
That's all right. And we have the same addiction. It's okay.
This is a 12-step program here to wean us from it, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I'm on this right now because I'm not looking at my tweets. It's really embarrassing. Actually. It's so ridiculous.
I'm usually on SciStrike's movie night, which at the end has an opportunity for people to do a plug for what they're doing and why they think they're important. Stephanie, Shannon has a show as well where she talks to theists. So maybe you could hook up with Shannon. She's doing that with Godless Cranium on his channel. Am I correct, Shannon?
Well, I do a couple things. I work with a channel called Apologia, so I'm mostly in the background on that. Every once in a while, I'm at the forefront on the channel. I co-host a podcast called The Heathen Hour on Godless Cranium's channel, and I also I host a periodic show called Getting to Know You with Shannon Q or something like that on the Great Debate Community. And most of what I do is I go around YouTube essentially and Twitter and the like, and I seek out complex conversations with people who have differing opinions from my own, and in an attempt to prove that there is such a thing as respectful dialogue amongst people who hold differing viewpoints. So that's essentially and I also I'm making an attempt to normalize atheism so that people who are atheists aren't afraid to come out and have these types of conversations.
Okay, well, nice. Shannon, I was just flipping through my tweets. I'm trying to find the tweet from you, so I'm going to have to keep looking at it. But I am familiar with Godless Cranium. I've seen those tweets before, and I've definitely seen Apologia. So I think I know somewhat of where you're coming from.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, mostly I work with both of them most predominantly.
Okay.
So can I add something, or does anyone else have something to say?
No, go ahead.
What apologetics would you consider evidence-based or valid evidence?
Well, Demi, there are a lot of different arguments in support of God, and I could go into all of them. But I don't, obviously you all know the same arguments that I know, but I find the arguments, for example, the moral argument for God to be extremely convincing. I also find just the entire story of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection to be entirely convincing. So those are just two examples of many. There's also the aesthetic argument.
Are you aware that Jesus's whole story is essentially a retelling of a prior story?
No, actually, that's a claim that I've seen out there, but they've refuted that. So I've seen lots
of historical. It's not. It's
which particular gods are you saying that his story is imitating?
I'm going to get it now. Sorry, I should have been prepared to make.
No worries. So what I'll do is, Demi, what I'll do is when you send me that particular one, I'll send you links on Twitter of the refutations that I've seen on those particular arguments.
So if I can, if I give you an example of a God that Jesus was based on, and that would not be considered, you don't want to refute the evidence I provide?
I'll absolutely read what you provide me. Of course, I'm not going to ignore it. I'll definitely read it. And actually, what's really exciting?
I think I can remember it being Horus, a god, and I think ancient Egypt. I might be incorrect.
Okay, so I'll look into Horus today when I get back. I'm Pepper. Stop. Sorry, guys. My dog. That's my dog.
You need to get a bull terrier, Stephanie, because I have a bull terrier, and I have had her for I think 7 years now, and I recently added one. She barked 5 times during that period.
Yeah, what it is I think my neighbors are coming back over here, and that's what she's barking at. But they can be downstairs for a little while I chat here for a couple more minutes. No, I'll look into the argument with Horus. I've actually seen J. Warner Wallace wrote some refutations on that, and there are some others. So I'll go ahead and I'll look at what you write, and I'll offer a rebuttal.
I'm in no way smart enough to make these assertions myself. This isn't what I'm saying, and I haven't written this. This is historical evidence of how they believed their gods to be.
Demi, how do you think about when we talk about the early apostles and the first 300 years of Christianity, where it was not legalized to worship? Why do you think the early apostles they did what they did? Why do you think they were willing to risk persecution, jail, stoning, beheadings, crucifixion?
Sorry to interrupt you. That was rude, but that is under the assumption that those stories are correct.
Yes, and actually we've got lots of biblical and extra-biblical evidence suggesting so.
Like, could you provide me with just an example of that evidence?
Of extra-biblical evidence? Or of biblical evidence?
Evidence in support of the claim that Jesus' 12 disciples done what is claimed in the Bible.
Well, we have evidence that actually occurred. Let me give you specific references. If you chat for a moment while I find specific references, just give me 1 second here.
Okay, because from my understanding, there's not all that much evidence to show that Jesus really existed altogether. There's very shady, if you can call it that, evidence. So I might be incorrect in that opinion.
I'll share with you, actually, since we're both on social media together, I'll go ahead and I'll share with you some of the evidence that I have, and some of the extra biblical evidence that I have. So, for example, the Eusebius, the first church historian, he wrote ecclesiastical history, and he cited a number of authors and described the martyrdoms of Peter, James, and Paul. And then there are some other ones who also mention that. So I'll go ahead and I'll send some links to you so you can see that.
Sorry, could you just say that again? Sorry.
Well, I was just saying we have some evidence, extra biblical evidence. Besides, we have a lot of biblical evidence, obviously, but we also have extra biblical evidence that notes that the early people were martyred, and so I have sources for that. So I'll send you that. Okay.
Well, we have a relevant comment on this in the chat, and I would fully agree with that. Jen with 1 N, you know her, Stephanie. She said the jihadis flew into buildings on 9/11. Religious conviction doesn't prove the truthfulness, and I would fully agree with that. I mean, them getting martyred doesn't say anything about the claim, and doesn't say anything about what they thought was actually true. So that's not evidence. It's evidence of their conviction that it is.
Let's unpack that.
Yeah, but it's not evidence of the claim in itself.
And I agree with you. So let's unpack that a little bit. What did the early what did the jihadis believe?
They believe in Allah, and they believe that everyone else should be killed. and that's pretty much the same thing the biblical God wants, because I could get you verses in the Bible where it states that you have to kill unbelievers.
Okay, so the jihadis believe in Allah, just like you said, and they also believe that they need to kill people. And did the jihadis see Allah?
No.
Okay. Did the jihadis have first-hand experience with Allah, or did they actually read about Allah and learn about Allah from other from the Quran?
Okay, I have to.
Allah just means God in Arabic.
Yeah, Demi, wait a minute. What I have to add is I cannot answer that question honestly, because I don't know what they saw. I do know that it is forbidden to see Allah, but it doesn't mean that Allah can make himself known in any other different ways. So they could claim revelation through the Quran. They could claim other different things. What I'm trying to get at, that is them being a martyr and flying those planes in those buildings doesn't tell us anything whether or not the claim is actually true.
Well, no, because they never claimed that they saw Allah. They're different. This is not this is a category error, because basically you're using the jihadis to say that they're similar to the apostles, but the apostles' claim was that they saw the risen Christ.
Yes,
and they did not. So comparing the jihadis to the apostles is again a category error.
Okay, but so now explain to me in simple words, because maybe I don't understand. How is someone getting martyred for the claim they saw the risen Christ in any way validate the claim?
The martyrdom itself doesn't validate the claim, but it does force us to take a look at exactly what happened and why all of these people, multiple people, it wasn't just one, so multiple people also attested to having seen the risen Christ.
Why?
Why did they attest to seeing the risen Christ?
No,
because they saw the risen Christ.
Why would it make it necessary for us to look into that claim?
And also,
I told you, and you referenced this in your chat with Jackson. I told you that I saw aliens. I didn't see aliens. That was a fiction of my imagination. That was my brain stepping in a stressful time. It wasn't real. But to me, at the very moment that I saw this, it was very real. And it scared the hell out of me. And it did for weeks.
Peter, I totally understand that, but that is a single man's experience. So that is your experience. It wasn't your experience with a number of other people. So we have multiple apostles are saying that they saw the risen Christ.
Yes, we also have a clear one that is called the miracle of the sun, where I think it was thousands of people saw the sun move in the sky at the same time. They all saw this, which can be explained by what we know about the human eye and the human brain.
Okay, but so did they spend decades? Did they spend decades risking stoning and persecution and beheading and crucifixions?
No, because we don't have that anymore. But they do spend decades claiming that what they saw was actually true. That what they did spend decades stating that.
And so they didn't actually have any risk to their lives for admitting this information.
The risk is irrelevant.
Actually, no, it's actually quite relevant when you think about
it.
No, it isn't.
The risk is irrelevant to the people that go and suicide bomb places in the name of their God. People do things out of religious devotion all the time. So to claim that just because people have said something because they wanted to say something or believed something had happened, that isn't evidence that something actually happened.
Exactly. I agree with you, Demi. We have to look closer into the situation. So that's my only point, is I just want to say, I'm just trying to say, let's take a look at the situation and what they're claiming.
Okay, so let's go back to my example. I had the risk of getting fired at the job that I was doing because I lost an entire day while driving a truck. And I still have the evidence. I was not only driving this truck, I was driving it at top speed, which is, I think, half above the legal limit. So there were repercussions in my case.
Peter, honestly, I don't doubt your case. I think you obviously had some experience. Something happened in your case that it's clear that you had a significant experience, whatever it is. It's very clear you had something happen.
But what I'm getting at is it wasn't real. Even with the repercussions that I had, even when I came out with it and the repercussions that I had then, because people would mock me and I would be in risk of losing pretty much everyone around me because they would think I was crazy. It's not the same as getting killed. I agree.
If I may,
but I would stand to lose a lot. When I told my girlfriend this story, I was in a risk of her leaving me because I just went crazy. So there were risks involved, and the risks don't have any impact whether or not what I saw was actually true.
So the only thing I would want to say to that is that I completely agree that when people claim to have God experiences, it might be akin to some psychological phenomenon that you experienced. But I think what Stephanie was saying is that if that is the case and that theory is correct and it was something to do with your mental state, then multiple people wouldn't have experienced the same thing if we assume the tale to be correct. But I don't think that is worth the initial assumption.
Well, we have examples of mass hallucination, so it's quite possible.
What you're talking about is Fatima, Peter, and their stories change so much after just 10 years. Eyewitness testimony can change just within a couple of weeks after people give their testimony. It's almost unreliable in a way.
Yeah, and that's because how the brain works. Because if you remember something, you don't remember the actual event. You just remember the last time you remembered the event.
And when your endorphins and all that get excited too, you're in a different state of mind, or you're hyper visualizing, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what the term is for that.
Hey, everybody. I hate to say this, but I'm going to have to go because I can hear everybody downstairs and I feel guilty being up here.
Okay.
So I want to say it was very nice to come on here for a couple of minutes, and I'm glad that you were all so polite and very engaging.
Okay.
Nice to meet you,
I want to thank you for coming on, and I hope that we can have our second conversation, because I still owe you that one where you pick the topic and you moderate the call, and I really want to have that conversation. So please think about having that and coming back on our channel.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. You guys have a great day.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you for joining.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So,
see, she seems nice enough.
She does seem nice.
yes, I don't think that Stephanie is a bad person, and I've told this a lot of times. She makes mistakes and things happen, but yeah, I don't think that she's inherently evil or bad.
Oh, I don't think most people are.
I was going to say that exact thing. I don't think most people are inherently evil.
No.
I have to disagree. I won't go into this.
There is essentially dissociation disorder or something, though, isn't there? Where you no empathy.
Well,
that's sociopathy.
Is that what it is?
Dissociative personality disorder.
There's
Yeah,
a whole branch of
borderline personality disorder.
I have borderline personality disorder.
You have empathy.
But there's a whole branch of psychologies that are basically considered behavior or conduct disorders.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
things fall into that category.
But I also think there are evil people, or at least people with evil intentions,
Sure.
on Twitter and on YouTube. And
I would definitely agree with that. I'm optimistic in my thought that maybe the majority are not like that.
Yeah. So
I'd agree.
Okay.
I think whenever you look at any population, you're going to find people that have sociopathic or psychopathic tendencies. In any population, you're going to find people on a spectrum.
Well,
everything will be represented.
yes, I talked to several people about this. I think everything is a spectrum. I recently talked to someone about autism. I think autism is a spectrum as well, and it's something that we all have. Just some have a little bit stronger things that come up. But we all have our peculiar things, which could be related to any kind of autism in a certain way. So I don't think it's that black and white. When it comes to the brain, nothing is black and white.
No, that's why I like to have conversations with other people, because I like to hear what makes them tick and why. I can't walk in their shoes, and that's as close as I can get to it, is having a conversation with them,
There are certain things about the brain that are kind of black and white, though.
Like what?
Like what neurotransmitters do and what happens in the absence of certain neurotransmitters like serotonin and norepinephrine. Like if you have a low capacity or threshold for norepinephrine, then you're going to be more lethargic. For example, if you have an overactive amygdala, you're going to be more aggressive. If you're seeing something, we can trace the pathway to your occipital lobe and then your hippocampus, and then we can watch it go from there to your prefrontal cortex. We know that if we damage your Wernicke's or Broca's area, you're going to lose the ability to either process language or produce language. We know that most of your autonomic functioning is happening in your cerebellum and not at all in your cortical areas. Like there are things about the brain that are set in stone. I think that when people say things like it's not black and white, they're speaking more so about complex cognitive processing sort of the mind brain problem, and the hypothesis that consciousness is an emergent property of neural chemistry, and or the philosophical discussion about what is the mind or what is the soul. But there are things that are black and white about the brain.
Yeah,
I would agree, but don't these things come in gradations as well? Or
well, there's are you speaking about like neuroplasticity?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because there's only so much you can stretch that, though. Really, like, I mean, there's certain things, like if you look at corpus callosum splits. So as a treatment for epilepsy, for epileptic seizures, there one treatment that was prevalent and isn't as prevalent anymore because now there's more medications, was to completely sever the corpus callosum, and it caused split brain syndrome. And there's certain things that were only because the corpus callosum is essentially a bundle of nerves that's right at the base of your brain that connects both hemispheres. So if you split it, it's all of that communication that's happening between hemispheres isn't capable of happening anymore. So the brain, for some things, your brain is able to essentially kind of create new neural pathways through practice and sheer will. But if you remove components of your brain that are really, like if you take out somebody's hippocampus, or cause some serious damage to some of the midbrain structures, you're guaranteed that you're going to get either some sort of anterograde or retrograde amnesia. And there's just no two ways about it. There's no other way to get people to assimilate and form new memories or access their previous memories. Right?
Yeah, there I would agree. Although I'm at a great disadvantage here because now you're throwing around terms and I'm Dutch, so we have different terms.
I feel really dumb right now.
You guys said brain, man. Don't bring me here and say brain and then expect me not to talk about brains.
Okay, but I now feel like the little boy who's sitting in the corner and thinking that he didn't pay attention until now.
That's the way I like my men.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to wrap it up because we're going to conflict with the atheist experience, so we're going to lose viewers anyway. People who go there every week. I'd like to say a thank you to everyone who joined, and
thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Peter. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I would like to every single one of you at some point come on our channel for a lengthy chat, just a one-on-one, or me and one of my co-hosts. So I'd like to pick everyone's brain as well in a different way that Shannon does it, but we need. I think we need the diversity, and I think it's great having more channels doing talks like this. So I'm fully supporting everyone. What I want to do is steal something from SciStrike and let everyone do a plug for their own channel, and I'll do it in the same way that SciStrike does. I'm going by the avatars on my screen. So first of all, Demi. Tell people how cool you are and what you do and where they can find you.
Oh, I'm just fucking amazing. I don't know. It's like 11 o'clock here, so I'm struggling to find the words to explain just how fucking amazing I am. But you could come and check out my channel. I make social commentary bullshit and LGBT bullshit and atheist bullshit, so come and check me out, and that should be fun. Thank you.
And you have cool guests on every once in a while. You had Tony on with 2 amazing shows. I have to say that everyone has to go to your channel and watch those.
I know. I think I'm going to be doing more as well, and I'm doing one hopefully soon with Steve McRae, and hopefully sooner with Jackson Wheat about abiogenesis and stuff, I think, and evolution in general, I hope.
Okay, cool. Next up, Johnny.
Hey.
Or Tim.
All right, now, my channel is mainly about gab and finding out what other people think and having discussion with people. That's kind of that's what I started my channel for. And, one of the things that I'm doing right now on my projects is I'm working on the history of how creationism actually got started, and that'll be coming up here. I'm having trouble finding credible sources on it, but I'm working on it. So, and well, that's about it. Come and check it out. And I'm freaking awesome too.
Okay. Well, we can do a shout out for people who think they can help you with this. Go to Johnny's channel or find him on Twitter. He's Johnny Drive-By everywhere, so you shouldn't have any problem finding him. And if you can't find him, contact me and I'll get you in touch with Johnny to help him with that, because I think that would be a cool series, the history of creationism. I'd really want to see that happen. So Shannon, you're up.
Okay, so I'm going for the world record of YouTube subscribers without any content posted. I think I'm up to like almost 600.
It's so amazing.
I'm not sure how close I am, but I'm going to try my hardest to hold off. But I do post playlists there that are relatively well organized of guest appearances and contributions that I've made to other channels and the podcasts and things of that nature. And you can find me on Twitter. I'm Shan_Q0 on Twitter, and I'm pretty active there as well. And one of these days, maybe when I get 1,000 subscribers, I'll post a video or something on my channel just to see what happens.
Why not? To get.
Yeah, I think you should really do that and create your own channel. And if you need any help with any of the graphics or stuff like that, just hook me up. I'll be glad to help you out there, because.
Oh, thanks. Because that's my problem, is that I have no technical ability whatsoever. I can talk a lot. I can talk at a camera, sure, but I can't make that into, anything worth watching.
Did you try and get?
Depending on. Sorry, go on, Johnny.
Oh, I was just gonna ask her if she got. Because I sent her. I think I tweeted to you about what is it called? Final Cut Pro, Pro X, the trial version. You can use that for free if you want.
Yeah, well, the free or otherwise, I'd still have to know how to use it.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Is that on the interwebs? What keys do I press to make a video for me?
Well, Shannon, I can, depending on how often you want to upload, I could do simple edits for you on Windows Movie Maker, but I recommend you get that because it's just like really simple and really easy for people that don't know anything like editing. I use it still.
Oh, I run a Mac though.
She's got Apple.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, get iMovie because that's basically the Apple version.
I have it. I do have it. I'm teaching myself how to use it. One day I'll generate content. I promise. One day I will. I promise I'll do it. Right now I'm just a hired gun that doesn't get any money.
So if you have questions, you can ask me too.
Awesome. I have Paul too. He's pretty cool. People like Paulogia.
Yeah. I think Paul can help you out at least with going live and putting a video together. And as I said, if you need any graphics or something like that, I'd be glad to help you out. I'm doing that for several channels, so I'd be happy to.
Wants to. I feel like peer pressure now.
I have to at this point. I was
another hangout now. What's going on here?
Okay, so I want to thank everyone, and I want to thank the people that were in the chat. The talk we were supposed to have didn't work, sadly enough, because I was really interested in what he had to say. But we did have a decent chat anyway. So
I think it worked out really good, actually.
Yeah. So thanks to the people in here on the stream and to the people on the chat, and see you all I think this Wednesday when we have a very interesting guest that I'm not going to reveal who he is until he comes on, so you'll have to watch that. Thanks all for watching, and see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.